Hold on, it's starting right now. Give it about 5 seconds.
Okay.
Thanks, Ron.
You're live.
Okay. Let's go ahead and call to order. And do we have the American flag for Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, so if everyone wouldn't mind standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, and let's go ahead and start. Are we all ready? Okay. I pledge allegiance to the United States, United States of America,
and to
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. And then let's go ahead and do a roll call. I am not seeing everyone. Well, Jana or Renee, would you mind helping me out here, calling out who we have?
Sure. Renee, you're muted. I can do it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so we have for you today, we've got Joseph Ehard,
Present.
Rondi Jackson. She waved. Crystal Kaidoy,
Here.
Ricky Davis, of course.
Here.
And I think it looks like Mr. Voltaire Montemayor is trying to connect. So because she started the meeting at prior to Mr. Montemayor coming in, you've got two alternates that are going to be seated. Is that correct, Chair?
Yes. So we'll go ahead and seat our alternates and then move on to approval of agenda items. Everyone good with the agenda? Do we all have a copy of it?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll motion to approve.
Okay, I got a motion. Do I have a second?
I will second. It's Joe.
Okay, I have a second. Let's go ahead and do a vote. Rosanna, do you mind roll calling again?
Okay, calling for a vote. Joe,
Aye.
Ricky,
Aye.
Rondi,
Aye.
and Crystal.
Aye.
I need some clarification. Does Voltaire get to vote?
Yeah, he does. There's
Okay.
still more absent, but
Okay.
he is absent, so he misses this vote.
Okay, he misses the vote. Okay.
Okay, so then we'll move on to approval of the minutes. Remember, if you were not at the last meeting, you cannot vote on it. So if we could pull up the minutes on the screen from last month. Or if everyone had them in front of them, that's fine too.
Yeah, we don't need to pull the minutes up.
Yeah.
Chair, respectfully, everyone got them in their email, so they can just refer to that.
Cool. I'm allowed to make a motion to approve, right?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Do I have a second?
Yes, I second. That's Rondi.
Okay. And then Rosanna, would you mind? I'm sorry, I'm going to probably ask you to roll call
That's
every
okay.
time.
No. This is my job. Don't worry. I will call for the vote. Ricky,
Aye.
Joseph,
Aye.
Voltaire. I'm sorry. Rondi
Aye.
and Crystal.
Aye.
Motion.
Okay. So looks like our minutes from last month were open. Do we have anyone for public forum?
We do not have any members from the public present.
Okay. So then I believe we have a presentation next by staff. I'm trying to pull up mine, but it's being mean to me. Can we scroll down a little on this? There we go.
Thank you.
So it looks like we have a Parks Master Plan presentation by staff.
Yes, so Chair, thank you and good evening. Council, excuse me, oops, wrong meeting, commission members. So I'm at 24 hours ahead of myself. So good evening, commissioners. We are happy and very excited tonight to present a draft of the Parks Recreation Master Plan. We do have the project manager, Lee Hakim, here tonight. And Lee Hack, if you're okay, I'll let you present and introduce our consultant, Gates and Associates. Are you there?
Yep, I'm here. Saying your
Okay.
name. Good evening, commissioners. I'm Lee Ha-im, an associate civil engineer with the engineering department. As Renee briefly mentioned, this is for the update of the Park and Recreation Master Plan. Staff and the consultant have been working closely on this project for the past years, and we have completed dozens of community outreach and survey. And based on those informations that we received, the consultant have completed the draft master plan documents that will include the goals, recommendations, action plan, and implementations. So with that being said, I will pass this on to Linda Gate with Gate and Associate to begin her presentation. Thank you.
Great. Leah, can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
loud and clear.
Thank you everyone for letting me join you this evening. And with that, if you can give me the next slide. So we're here tonight to talk about the Park and Recreation Master Plan update. This is an update of the 2008 Park and Recreation Master Plan. And as you recall, this is to create a roadmap to ensure the Milpitas community will continue to have safe, convenient, equitable access to a diverse range of outdoor activities, open space, and recreational programs. So it's the whole enchilada here. And it's been a pleasure working with the staff and the community to develop this draft. And I look forward to your comments on it. Next slide. So last time we were here, we chatted with you a little bit how we've done site assessments of all the parks, that we looked at benchmarking, comparing ourselves to other communities. We discussed community input from 2 rounds, focus groups, town hall, meetings with the school district and softball league. We shared with you that we had met with focus groups about organized sports, teens, new residents to the Milpitas community to find out what they were seeking, and the social services. I mean, it's interesting in this sort of time of COVID, social service and inclusion has become even more important to your community, sort of providing information about housing, financial opportunities, food, all those things. So your Park and Recreation Department has really stepped up, I think, during this period. As we talked about before, organized sports, we're all about, we need to expand our capacity. You have a lot of sports already, and now you're adding cricket into there. So figuring out ways to increase your capacity, and joint use is a critical foundation of sports. Teens, making sure that teens continue to use the park. We have like youth using the park, and then we have older people using the park, and really trying to figure out what would get teenagers back into our park system. We chatted with sort of new residents, what they were looking for, and they really want their parks to help them meet their neighbors. It's like the social engagement. So the kind of things you think, oh, people want to, use the playground. No, they want to meet their neighbors. We want to meet teens. So it's that really much richer kind of park and recreation master plan that we're bringing forward to you in this draft document. Next slide. So tonight we're going to be sort of giving you a high-level overview of the draft master plan document, a little bit about sort of the planning context that we're in that set the stage for this, sort of recreation programs. We looked at that in quite a bit of depth, sort of the vision that the Milpitas community has for their park system and the goals that we need to implement that. Talk a little bit about sort of the existing conditions and the proposed improvements for each and every one of the parks and what it's going to cost to do that, which then turns into an action plan and implementation strategy. So it's the roadmap and prioritization of how we're going to get there. Next slide. So as you recall, we discussed this a little bit last time we were here, sort of in terms of the planning context. We look at sort of park classifications that were set up by the general plan. We're looking at sort of facility standards, how many soccer fields you need, how many baseball, how many tennis courts. We're looking at the demographics of the Milpitas community, how it's changing since the last Park and Recreation Master Plan was developed in 2008. It's continued to age. You have even greater ethnic diversity, and you're also bringing in a lot of people in sort of higher density housing that have different pressures on the park and recreation system. They're looking to the park and recreation system to meet some of the needs that might have been met in traditional backyards. You know, that's why I'm saying new people are saying the social gatherings and such that are happening, they need the parks to do it. It's sort of an interesting time to have been developing this master plan. It turned out, I think, during COVID was very fascinating because the appreciation for park system as an integral part of our mental and physical health has never been higher. So what a great time to sort of bring this forward when people are really like, this is an asset that we need to protect. This is essential to our health, just the same as police and fire. We need our park system. So you see those recreation trends like reconnecting with nature. Everybody's sort of worried about, you know, youth particularly spending too much time on the couch and too much time on Zoom and not getting out. So that you'll see that permeating the document. As I talked about, the whole idea of public health wellness, you've got to get outside to stay healthy, both mentally and physically. People wanting to connect and socialize with each other, you know, social distancing, where can you do it? The outdoors. So this whole idea of parks and their role that we play, active aging, and then getting online. Your park and recreation department really pivoted to sort of offer a lot of online programs and such, and those kind of online programs, even as we come out of the pandemic setting, I think will continue because it's actually making it more accessible to more people because not everybody can go to a facility and take classes. So being able to offer both. And the really great thing about doing this Park and Recreation Master Plan update right now is your general plan was getting updated. The Metro specific plan was happening. The Park and Trail Master Plan was happening. So we got to coordinate all these efforts to really put them in sync with each other. So, you know, that's the context, the wonderful context that we got to proceed with this master plan in. Next slide. So as I mentioned before, one of the important things that we looked at that didn't get looked at in 2008 was your recreation programs. And we did a comparative assessment of different cities, like what they were offering in their programs, what they were charging in those programs, what kind of events they were holding, what kind of community services they offered. And we sort of found that there was room in Milpitas's programs to maybe charge some higher fees in certain areas. There is opportunities within Milpitas to look at some revenue recapture so that we set a target goal to be phased in over time that 40% of the cost of operating their programs, both indirect and direct costs, on average would be captured. So that means some programs we can get a higher cost recovery that helps us underwrite programs that we want to offer that we can't get as high a cost recovery. So there's a lot of information there to sort of inform the recreation program as we move forward. You know, that idea of being able to pivot quickly to offer different kinds of offerings as the community evolves, keeping a lot of sort of the diversity of culture reflected in both the programs and the events we offer. So there was just, I encourage you to go look at the draft document because it's just, I thought it was fascinating, just sort of all these programs and the role of park recreation system in our lives these days. They deliver so much more than they did in 2008. It's fabulous. Next slide. So as I said, I've loved working with the Milpitas community, and sort of what's great to me is the vision is this to create, enhance, and sustain a comprehensive connected system of park and recreation programs that nurture and inspire the Milpitas community, like really looking for that coming together as a community. So I really loved that sort of feeling that came from them. And in order to implement this vision, there were sort of 8 overarching goals that emerged out of all the myriad of input we have. And I'm going to walk through each of those goals with you now. So next slide. So goal number 1 is we need to strategically grow and evolve the parks and programs to provide comprehensive recreation opportunities and amenities to meet the needs of the diverse existing and future residents. Milpitas is slated to grow. So we're going to have to be proactively already. You have sort of a density of people needing to use your parks and facilities. And as you grow, we're going to need to meet that. One, new development has park impact fees associated with that to provide for new parkland and such. But sometimes they don't have enough parkland and uses might spill over into existing. So the idea is, how can we take existing parks to begin to meet that recreation need? In addition to just new, like I mentioned before, cricket or pickleball or different things are emerging and changing, so to adapt to that. We want to work with proposed developments early in the process, because often they are providing park facilities, to make sure the kinds of facilities they're providing are the ones that Milpitas residents really want, and also to be flexible so that spaces can convert to other uses, this adaptability, that evolution. And really avoid things that are single use. It's like you can play soccer here and softball. You can do multiple things in spaces, because parkland's precious and land in Milpitas is expensive. So we want to be really, geared towards that as a precious resource. And, continue to offer diverse programs, always looking proactively to create opportunities to get new parkland, and expanding technology in the parks, Wi-Fi and other kinds of high tech things that allow us to maintain and operate our parks better. So these are some of the goals related to strategically growing and evolving the parks and programs. Next slide. So the second goal was to create an inclusive park system that operates things for all residents, particularly for the vulnerable, underserved. And this was a really strong theme throughout our community outreach, and Milpitas should be proud of themselves. This was something that started coming up a year and a half ago, of that kind of inclusivity, and really getting local businesses and organizations involved in helping to foster that, adapting programs quickly, like when something retires, we're not getting the enrollment, offering something new. It's simple things like I mentioned before, building things in parks that attract teens, because that user group is sort of falling out of our mix, and it's one group that probably needs the parks critically. And little simple things like the paths getting wider so that you can accommodate multiple use. So it's the bicyclist and the jogger and the dog walker and the rollerblader and such. Like, these parks are getting used by everyone. So we want to make sure the facilities meet all. A lot of discussion about comfort, plenty of seating, lots of opportunity for shade, and a diverse range of gathering spaces, and a lot of reservable ones. As I mentioned before, a lot of people will be looking to the parks to meet some of their backyard needs. So when they have a large family gathering or want to gather with friends, they want to be able to reserve a group picnic area or something to hold that kind of family event in. So these are kinds of how our park system is changing and how we meet those needs of the community. Next slide. Enhance equitable access. We need to make sure that everyone in the community can get to the parks. And this involves connecting them up with great park systems, striving for parity of amenities. So making sure one side of the town has access to, a dog park, or another side has access to soccer fields, that you kind of balance that out as you move forward. So people don't have to travel across town to have a great playground or something like that. Once again, using the trails that are developing and enhancing almost as adjuncts to the park, like adding group exercise, public art and stuff. Walking is a huge recreation, activity that people really want to be able to walk and move. So really taking and not just being a sidewalk, but creating paths that are experiential. Even within the park, looking at more loop trails and wayfinding, because that's what a lot of people want to do. Is they just get out there and walk, and it allows opportunities for social distancing, for meeting your friends in a healthy manner. And then obviously the recreation services being able to staff and maintain these parks is super important in terms of ensuring an equitable access to parks. Next recommendation. We talked already a little bit about the goal of community health and wellness to support not only physical activity, but social interactions and connections to nature. So it has to be more than, as I said, just a playground. It's got to be someplace where the moms can gather to talk to each other, or children can play and interact with nature. One of the things I thought was interesting when I reviewed the teens is they really wanted to see some more natural areas in the park. They liked that feeling of nature and such. So once again, talking about making it more comfortable to be outside, different kinds of fitness levels and channels, opportunity for casual social interaction, not just planned gatherings. You know, what will tempt people to go outside? You know, always adapting, like what would make someone get outside? Maybe it's schedule an event, movies in the night park, something that lures people out to activate the parks. And then obviously sports fields and keeping your adequate amount of sports fields in your community is a critical issue. You know, there's a lot of people playing sports and there's very limited space to do that in, which involves a lot of partnerships and such to do that. Next slide. Only 4 more goals to go. Reflect the culture diversity. This came up very frequently. You've become even more culturally diverse since 2008, and wanting to reflect that in the park system. Like every park should look at the neighborhood they're in and the demographics of that neighborhood and sort of reflect that in their park system. You should see that park and say, oh, I know that's over in this part of town or that part of town. Really want to see more art integrated into the park, not just a sculpture, but that the whole park felt artful and they were collaboratively integrated. You know, outdoor performance opportunities, a range of community activities and different kind of events that desire to have your park be the place you gather with your friends and neighbors. Next slide. Partnerships. So I mentioned before, parkland is a precious resource in Milpitas. And in order to accomplish all the recreation activities that Milpitas residents want to do, we're going to have to continue to work collaboratively with the school districts. There's some nonprofits and local organizations that can supplement some of the social services that are offered. Working with the Santa Clara County Park Department, you know, we already have a dog park on county land. Those kinds of things moving forward are going to be essential. And then obviously, as new parks develop, making sure they complement the range of uses for the Milpitas park system. It's not just sort of this cookie cutter kind of thing, but it's really strategically meeting the needs of the community. Next slide. And we talked about advanced management and stewardship and environmentally resilient park system. So, you know, I'm sure all of you realize we're smart about, you know, irrigation management as we do stormwater treatment within the park, vegetation selections, encouraging programs that teach people about the environment, how it's maintained. You know, as we select our materials, making sure they're durable, thinking about the use patterns and the maintenance levels. This is just inherent in how we think about our park system and maintaining that investment and being smart about it and reflecting the Milpitas values to create that environmentally resilient park system. And 8, next slide. Finally, it's like funding resources. So there is there's a shopping list, as we all have, of things that really are important to the community, and our ability to fund these improvements is going to be something we're going to need to be looking at really carefully over the next few years. And I alluded to before, maybe looking at park impact fees associated with new development, being able to use those to redevelop some existing parks to increase their capacity so they can accommodate the new residents moving to the community, and sort of how can we adjust that. You know, cost recovery for programs, we already looked at that. You know, updating recreation programming so that all the classes like are popular and filled to increase cost recovery. Looking, as we mentioned, developer fees or expectations as they dedicate parkland to meeting that needs. Already your staff looks pretty aggressively at donation grants and alternative funding sources, but we have to explore some sort of new mechanisms to fund these in a more predictable level. Some cities look at putting impact fees on other types of development, like as office happens or retail or different institutional happens, because those people too often use your park system. So maybe putting impact fees with them, partnerships, you know, there's just a variety of different funding sources. And the critical thing is to not just say, oh, it'll get funded somehow. The CIP will not be adequate to fund all the needs that we have. We're going to have to find other mechanisms to rely on. Next slide. So With those goals in mind, and based on our assessment, we went to each of your 30 plus parks and made recommendations for improvements that would occur in those parks. And then we developed cost estimates for those improvements. So we have an idea of not only what we want to improve, but how much it's going to cost, so we can begin to budget that out over the next 10, 15, 20 years, And so then we have an idea of what the gap may be between CIP and what you need, and how we close that gap with other kinds of funding sources. Next slide. So that's sort of like the action plan. So in terms of implementing, we're going to be looking at ways to activate the existing parks through programming such to really get the bang for our buck, connecting the parks to trails and systems so they're accessible to more people, renovating and repurposing, like re-looking at how we're using a facility, how many people are using that. Maybe it could be a better and higher use, so adapting things. Obviously developing new parks and creating new kind of facilities. So we created what we call an action plan. So we took all the different parks and all the different recreations we had for those parks. We aligned those recommendations with the achieving of the goals. And then we said, these are things we want to happen in year 1 to 3. These are things we'd like to happen in year 3 to 5, and outward to that, to begin to set up budget. Because what the staff wants is an action plan. They want to know the order in which they should be doing things in. Obviously, the prioritization may adjust if different funding becomes available, or the cost to operate them has an impact. Like some things may cost more to operate, so we may not have the staffing to accommodate that yet. Partnership opportunities, some quick wins. But these all been prioritized, and then each time we look at the next funding cycle, we kind of adjust the priorities based on the criteria at that time. But what we're really going to be looking at is impact fees, using them, private sector collaborations, and maybe even some tax measures to help get these parks sort of built in a timely manner. And that's sort of how your action plan will play out. This is in much more detail in the document, but that's kind of a high level overview to give the staff sort of some direction and confidence of how to proceed. Next slide.
Linda, you're muted if you can hear me.
Okay, I don't know how that happened. Hi, welcome back. So we have a project website that we've been updating as we go through this process, like the assessments got up there, outreach from the community survey, so people could be following along. So now we're going to capture and hear your comments tonight, and hopefully we will be posting the draft master plan onto the website, tomorrow, the next day after, so we get your comments and get the community have a chance to weigh in, capture those refinements, and really have something that we feel is a reflection of what Milpitas wants. So I think there's one more slide, I think, to just let you talk at me. Next slide. Okay, yeah, look at that. So we're anxious to hear any feedback or thought you have right now. Recommendations, we'll be providing information to the City Council. And as I said, I've very much enjoyed collaborating with your staff. They have worked very hard on this update. And I think it's a really interesting document talking about how parks of the future will be. I think this community has really stepped up and created a strong update here. And now it's your time.
I'll start off with a question, and this might be me overanalyzing, but will the fact that we did it during a pandemic show in way that could be negative?
We were concerned about that initially because we had an opportunity to meet with people in person in the beginning. And often the real challenge was connecting with people through this. So your staff has worked very hard, as I said, to set up some focus groups, we've gone to all the different commissions and councils to update. So I think that, as I said, in some ways it's a good time because I think everybody really appreciates this. The challenge is getting the word out, but the staff, I mean, you know, Renee will tell you all the ways that we've connected with people and got the word out. So yes, the challenge is we had to work a lot harder, but but we persisted and the staff persisted. And so I feel confident that the recommendations here are classic and they stand the test of time. And just the fact that we're in the pandemic to make us feel it's more important and to appreciate them more, I think ended up being a value to it.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else have any questions?
Or any comments or ideas. This is a very important document. You are the advisory body that makes recommendations to our city council members, and we have our vice mayor with us now. Good evening, Vice Mayor Montano. So it's really important that you participate in this discussion. So whether it's history or fields or cycling or whatever it might be, we really do need to hear from you, and then we can go over what the next steps are.
Right. Hi, hello everyone. I apologize for being late. I was at another meeting, so I rushed home. So I thank you for the presentation. It was wonderful. Can you give me that www.
Oh,
for
the website?
feedback? Yeah, for the feedback. Can you put
Yeah,
that up?
Okay.
Oh, Milpitas Parks Recreation Masterplan.org. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. What I didn't see in there though, it was, you know, as you know, the school district sort of, well, I'll just say it as it is. They took away the girls softball site, and that will be the new track. So they didn't have anywhere else to go. So I'm concerned about sports youth leagues, not just softball, but making sure that they're accommodated. So that's what my concern is, and maybe that'll happen in the future. And I looked on that list, and on Dixon, I think in the interim, we're going to have some girls sports fields on Dixon Landing Park. Is there going to be enough fields there for them, Renee?
Yeah, that's a good comments and great questions. So the softball fields, the baseball fields now over at Dixon. However, much of the base runs are the same for Little League and softball with the lower ages. So we are renovating those fields to make them multi-use for both softball and Little League. Significantly on the senior fields because the base runs are different. So we're skinning those infields for softball. And then we are actually semi-creating a fourth field out there for them. There already exists a backstop. So they will have the full 4 fields that they have now at Russell. So they will have that at Dixon. And then, as you know, our city council also made this a priority in their capital improvement program, where we've made some projects for having softball over at Cardozo Park. So that exists in that document as well. And then Linda, I know you talked about one of the goals was preserving sports fields. So did you want to talk a little bit about that to Vice Mayor's comment about preserving fields for all sports as well?
Right. So we've had a number of discussions with the different sports groups, and as I've said before, I was very pleased to see how collaborative the Milpitas sports group users are. You know, their recognition that, you know, strategically, how can we share a sports field here? How can we use that? And then, as I said, we even had introduced and now there's another use like cricket. So really thinking about short-term, some modifications we could do at Dixon to accommodate this need. Then looking at over at the Sports Center and Cardoza Park, adjustments there. And then even in the long term, coming back to Dixon with some more adjustments as we go forward. So it's because we recognize the need's only going to grow too. So
Right.
the master plan's trying to create, like sort of, as I said, so the 1 to 3, 3 to 5, the 5+ to kind of keep, because this issue is not going to go away. And obviously continue to collaborate with the school district to meet the needs that they are able to accommodate. So yes, that was one of the big challenges, I think, this master plan was to create a short-term, a mid-term, and a long-term vision that we felt would work for your community.
Right, that's great. Is there a Renee, I was wondering, I'm just kind of thinking out of the box, because the school district has so much land, in their sports, for their, in the back of the schools, it's because that's a state requirement. They have to have so many acres. I was thinking out of the box, maybe the city in the future, not now, of course, but can buy a parcel or two just for parks to create parks for the community. Because one of the great things about Milpitas that everybody loves, we have many parks, and very few cities have that. And that's because it started from way back from the forefathers, when Milpitas became its own incorporated city. That was one of the goals, is to create parks. And I am so glad that the city founders did that, because that's why a lot of people love Milpitas and they moved to Milpitas, because we have so many beautiful parks. And that's something that we want to keep and maybe even expand, because, population is going to get higher everywhere. And so that's going to happen here in Milpitas too. So yeah, I'm just thinking maybe, or you can find areas where a potential park, like a tot lot, so forth, those kind of things. But yeah, and I know it all takes money, but at least we can have that goal, that vision to look out for some available space for parks. Anyway,
Yeah,
I just want to throw that out there.
No, that's great. Land acquisition, I'm always for that. I do think that, Linda, correct me if I'm wrong, we do have a section in the entire plan that deals with park fees, but then also opportunities for land acquisition and then joint use agreements. Because, just having access to other people's green space if they have more than we do, or in certain areas where we identify we have a deficiency of green space and you have a lot, hey, how can we work together?
Right.
Whether that's purchasing some land or the joint use agreement, because actually the joint use agreement, we can count those acres towards our overall per capita acreage. So all of those options are good ones.
Actually, yeah, that's even better, because buying land is so expensive. So having a really good sound use agreement with the school district or any other entity is the best way to go. You're right.
Yeah. All of the above.
Yes. You cannot overlook any opportunity in Milpitas. You guys are in place. See where you are. No opportunity can be overlooked, because land values are so high. You're in that marketplace and you've got to compete. And yes, hopefully the master plan establishes the value of parkland. It's worth the investment. That it's not something, oh, well, wouldn't that be nice? No, it's like essential, like buying an ambulance. It's essential, so hopefully we'll get taken very seriously now.
Yeah. One thing I will mention regarding sports, a bit basketball, there's, I've had parents, ask me, well, why doesn't the city put a basketball court in this park? Or, so I don't know, that might be something that I don't know why they don't, but it's just different sports, different. I like how you're having cricket there, soccer, baseball, and all those other, and the tot lots, and those are all really great ideas. But I was just thinking about basketball. I think
activity appeals to teens, which is now a priority, is make sure we keep teen activities in parks too. So,
yeah, I hear you. Great.
I have a question. I remember when I was a kid, I always heard that Milpitas had a rule where a new developer had to build a park for so many units. Is that still a rule in Milpitas?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes and no, because aren't they using, aren't builders more lately just paying the city at, X dollars a square foot
Yeah.
instead of the actual land?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
the in
it
lieu.
is- Yeah, the park in lieu fee, which the Vice Mayor just brought up, it's called the Quimby Act. So the recommendation is, 3 to 3.5 acres for every 1,000 people that you're building for. Depending on the type of development, there may not be enough land available to get that much acreage. So they're doing either in lieu or a combination thereof. And also they're building park spaces that they're maintaining themselves as well. So we have seen the park acreage increase over time, but there's a lot of different ways to get that acreage. And one of the things we're looking at in the master plan is how do we use some of those dollars from specific areas like the metro or Midtown, and how do we sort of use those dollars everywhere or enhance other park fee areas so that the people that are moving into town and using all of the city's park and recreation infrastructure, how we can keep and maintain that and add to it as more people move into town.
And the nice thing is this is, was coming parallel with the Metro specific plan update and his other specific plans update. The idea is that we really value parkland versus in lieu fees. Sometimes you can't do it, but parkland is really precious to Milpitas. So that kind of idea that, don't take it for granted.
So that it covered that when possible, we would prefer parkland over in lieu. That it covered in the master plan?
Yeah.
Okay.
You had a hand up, Chair. Rondi had her hand up a little bit ago.
I'm so
Thank-
sorry, Rondi. Go right ahead.
Thank you. I just want to let you guys know, you may or may not know, but early on when we started looking at the master plan, all the youth groups were asked to come and give their input about sports and what is needed by our teens. And that was held in the Denny Weisgerber room. And we all had papers to mark up parks areas and where we thought things could be and what was needed the most. And I really appreciate that option to come and give our input. And we had quite a bit of people show up. So there was a lot. I'm just here to say there was a lot that went into that meeting, and then we came back and we re-looked at it and heard what the outcome was. So I just appreciate the fact that the community was able to go in and do that and give their input.
Was that last year, I think?
What was
Mhm.
that?
Oh, I think I was there. Yeah. Was that last year?
Gosh, I don't think it was.
Was that the same one
because
where we met at the,
we were in person, so it couldn't have been last
yeah,
year.
Yeah,
2 years
20 yeah, it was 2019, and I think we got together on the Sports Center master plan,
Yeah.
and we had a number
I
of,
remember that.
yeah, we had a great turnout of youth sports
Yeah.
representatives, and then some of the players came out as well, or recently graduated players, and so
Yes.
it was a great turnout that definitely helped inform this master plan as well, because we did look at the Sports Center master plan and what the needs were, and talked about that with Linda and her team, and then that was 2019, and then we did have a little bit of a window to end of 19 and 2020 to meet in person right before the world got turned inside out. So we were at tree lighting in person, and we were at Lunar New Year in person as well, which was huge. So we did get quite a bit of in-person feedback, and they had the same cool system with the dots and where would you put things and write in what you would love to see, and sky's the limit. And so we got a lot of great feedback there. And then we just carried those themes forward through all the online participation. We went back out to the teens. Also, we had a special teen focus group, special needs focus group, new resident focus group. It's been a journey, a fun one, but it's been a journey, as most master plans are. So I'm pleased with what we've got so far. Joseph or Crystal, did you have any questions or comments?
Question, is their plan, you're talking about, I think I heard the word joint use mentioned. Is there some of the land over by Mabel Matos Elementary School, is some of that land going to be, what, two things? Is it expansion of the school, but is it also a park possibly?
It's funny that you say that, because I was just in a meeting with some school district folk and we talked about that parcel and where the parcel lines end and start for city and the school district. So I know the school district is talking about certain plans for that, the old Murphy School, which I tend to call it. And then, but there is sort of that, if you're staring at the school, which is Mary Hill now, I believe, if that's right, to the left of it, there's sort of an empty parcel. And then, like the vice mayor mentioned before, there's always lots of green space right behind a school for the kids to run and get all their wiggles out and things like that, and do sports and things like that. So it is a discussion always as far as joint use agreements for that open space. So yes, that is part of a discussion point, but the district is looking at what they're going to do with that school long term. So that might affect a joint use agreement in the long run.
Aren't we putting a new dog park and ADA park in that area?
Oh, you know what, Joseph, I'm sorry. You said Meadow School, didn't you?
I did, that's okay.
I'm sorry. I heard Murphy. Sorry about that. Sorry. But yes,
But that's
Meadow
okay, because
School.
I didn't know about possibly something happening to Maryhill.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Double the M school information. So the Meadow School, that is the all-inclusive playgrounds location. So we did get a grant of about $780,000 from the county for that park itself. So that should be built and completed by the beginning of 2023. So there are joint use areas there, which include basketball courts. So all of their basketball courts are joint use. There will be a couple joint use. There'll be one joint use playground area, which will feature sort of an outdoor school environment as well. And then that site will also have a large field area that we have plans to light it. So it'll be another lit field in Milpitas, which is a great asset. And then part of that park, which is on the complete opposite end from the school, is a small dog park area section for small dogs and larger dogs, which have very high fences and some barriers in there so that the kids can't see the dogs and vice versa. So that's also planned. And a community garden is also out there as well. Did that answer the question? Yeah. Okay.
I have a
one other
comment.
question. Bathrooms in every park, or at least every park of reasonable size, especially with play, children's play areas. I'm 77, so I've gone through children, but I've gone through grandchildren. I've lived in Milpitas for 54 years. One of the things that I've observed at time is that when, particularly with my grandchildren, sometimes I'd have three of them. Not currently; they're actually adults now. But when they were young, you're down at the park with three kids, and one of them needs to go to the bathroom. And usually, what happens is they need to go to the bathroom now. And typically, like in my case, my closest personal park is Ben Rogers. and it's a couple blocks away from the house. So the bottom line is that parks really should have bathrooms. One of the improvements to the Creighton Park is they put a bathroom in, and which I think is absolutely great, and that was an upgrade. But I was today visiting Milpitas Skate Park, and well used. I mean, when I was there about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and there were like 18 to 24, basically young males, pretty much, generally speaking, and they were having a lot of fun. But bottom line is, there's no bathroom there, and so that's one of the things that I was just wondering about in terms of prioritizing upgrades.
We have
That's a
the, yeah, the snack shack, which is just a few feet away from the park. The skate park is open all day long, and that's their restroom. So there's signs out there pointing to restrooms. They just have to walk maybe 50 yards away and go to the bathroom and get back in. And there's a exit gate on the northeast side of the skate park, so they can get out and go to the bathroom and then come back in.
Okay,
So we did think that.
I walked around,
Yeah.
but I couldn't see that. I didn't see that. So actually, maybe I'm wondering if there's some signage that really tells people.
Yeah.
Because anyway, I missed that.
That's okay.
Thank you for the response.
That's why I'm here. Yes, but yeah, to parks without restrooms. So as we've gone through and started to renovate those that are without restrooms, we've added, like you mentioned, Creighton Park. We added a small restroom there. That was a big discussion point with that neighborhood. We did start some design work at Sandalwood. That one doesn't have a restroom. We talked about putting a restroom there. And then Ben Rogers is one of the other ones that we've talked about. So noted. The restroom dilemma when you don't want to leave your party or take all 3 grandchildren and try to run them a few blocks or to a neighbor's house up the street. So we've been adding those, but yeah, very good point.
That reminds me of Renee. Are there water fountains out there? A faucet or something?
Yes. So the parks, all of them should have water fountains. And as
Faucets rather, not faucets.
Yeah, for both. We've actually gone through with renovations and put in the bottle filler stations as well. And part of that was done through a grant through our Public Works Department. So you'll see those pop up if they're not in your park already.
Oh, great. Well, that gives me an idea. I serve on the First Five Commission for Santa Clara County, and we give out pot of the otter water faucets.
Mm-hmm.
So if the city wants to put one in where we're outside, the city can write a letter to them, and I'm sure they will be happy to donate one. Part of the otter water fountain, water faucet. Yeah, it's really cool. Actually, it promotes children drinking more water. So they like it.
Love it.
All right. I think Crystal had a question too, or comment.
Is it possible to have like a playground rock climbing gym? I don't know. How would that work?
I think that actually came up, a rock wall. Didn't that, Linda? With the
that was one of the things that teens liked. The rock walls, climbing kind of things, because those are things they still keep playing on. So that was actually raised as one of the amenities that you could entice teens back to the parks.
Oh, cool. Yeah. That'd be nice.
Now, once again, these are sort of the overarching, like what you need to do with each park. As each park gets developed, you'll have community neighborhood meetings for the specific design direction of that park. So these are just setting up what those parks need and what the likely budget would be for that. But the final design of each park and the selection of each of the elements will be done in a process that works with the local neighbors at the time that happens. Just to, the neighbors will have one more shot at their park for sure.
Sounds good.
Yeah, can you hear me? This is Voltaire Montemayor.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think we're almost there. I think we're gonna attract a lot of people, a lot of adjacent cities people to see Milpitas if we will be walking, if we will have good parks, like if we can improve as we talk in a city council meeting, the main street and all the streets, not only main street, a lot of places that we can make like every cities will be attracted to see Milpitas. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Any other comments, or we have mention of the last town hall on the 15th?
Oh, right. Yes. Thank you, Renee.
You're welcome.
So in order to share the Park and Rec master plan with the community and sort of update them and encourage them to make comments on it, we'll be holding the third town hall meeting to sort of, similar to what we've done tonight, kind of discuss the overall structure of the document and the things they'll find there, and be encouraging them then to go to the document and kind of look and give us any feedback and such. So we will send you an invitation to that. I'm assuming they all get invited to that town hall meeting. You will send that out to them. But yes, that's coming up. So mark your calendars. It's on the 15th, right?
Yes.
Yes.
No. It's on
No.
12.
On the
May 12.
12, sorry.
Thank
I have
you,
another
Leah.
event on the 15th.
I knew it was one of those dates real soon.
Let's see, the agenda tonight, Rosanna, was there a recommendation for the commission on the agenda for this one?
Yeah.
Oh, you're muted.
Again?
Yes, to provide recommendation. if
Okay,
they have any.
so we are going to take this to the 12th, not the 15th. If I go on the 15th, I'll be the only one there. So on the 12th, at the last town hall, we are getting and showing this off to the public that it, like I mentioned before, you are the advisory body to our city council on matters of parks and recreation. So we are looking for a motion for you guys to recommend this go to city council and for final approval. So I need a motion and a second.
I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve to send to city council. Do we have a second? I see a hand. I think we
Yes,
need,
I had to unmute. This is Gandhi. I second it.
awesome. And then Rojana, do you mind doing a roll call?
There you go.
I'm
Hello?
taking your votes,
Oh.
Ricky.
Yes, aye.
Okay, Joseph? I think he said aye. Rondi?
Aye.
Crystal?
Aye.
Okay.
And Voltaire.
And
Yes.
Voltaire?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, and this is Joe. I'm sorry, I was muted, but I said
We saw your lips move.
we saw all of your lips move.
All right, the ayes have it. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Linda.
My pleasure. I've loved this time with you guys. It's been great. I'm excited. Renee and Leak are going to be busy though.
Yeah. Busy's good. I like busy. All right, thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
everyone.
Thank
Later,
you.
guys. Bye.
Aye.
thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so let's try. Our next agenda item is I'm pulling up my agenda, sorry. The Transportation Development Act article.
And we have tonight presenting from city staff, we have our transportation manager, Steve Chan, a man who needs no introduction. Steve, I'll just turn it over to you to take it to the commission.
Good evening, Commissioner. Tonight, we have an informational item for you, the Transportation Development Act, Article 3. Next slide, please. As part of the Public Utilities Code, Transportation Development Act, Article 3 provides annual funding for bicycle and pedestrian projects. MTC, Metropolitan Transportation Commission, the Bay Area's county's transportation authority sets the policy and procedure for claiming this TDA 3 funding. TDA 3 funding amount is based on population formula, and funding for Milpitas for this year, 2021 and 22 is about $155,000. Next, please. Next slide, please. A requirement to receive the TDA funding is for the City Council to adopt a resolution designating a project to receive the fund and provide project information to the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Commission. In 2018, BPAC was dissolved by City Council, and the duty of BPAC was reassigned to the PRCRC. On April 6, 2021, City Council approved TDA fund to be used in the city's street resurfacing project to install and upgrade curb ramps and sidewalks. Next slide, please. And the proposed street resurfacing project for the upcoming year includes these streets highlighted in the blue purple color street, as well as the orange street next to Cardoso Park and Milpitas Sports Center. As I mentioned, as included as part of these residential street resurfacing project, we'll be upgrading all the ADA curb ramp on the various intersections on the street. In addition to TDA Article 3, the city also do other pedestrian and bicycle project. Right now, we are doing resurfacing project on Dempsey and Hillview. And later this summer, we are actually installing new bike lane along Piedmont. It's actually a buffer bike lane being installed as part of the resurfacing project, and also as part of the Landis resurfacing project, we're adding Class 2 bike lane as well, along with green bike lane from 680 to Piedmont. Next slide, please. And that concludes my presentation for this item. Any questions and comments?
I have one, Steve. This is Councilmember Montano.
Comment?
Hi, the street resurfacing, I didn't see California Circle area in there.
Oh, yes, that is true. California Circle is happening also this year. So California Circle and neighborhood residential street neighborhood near Dixon Park and along the outer perimeter of California Circle is also included in the resurfacing project this year.
Yeah, I think that the particular one area is the one heading south of, what's the name of that? South of Dixon Park. It's called Summerwind.
Yeah.
I mean, in that whole area, the roads are cracked really bad.
That is included as part of the resurfacing project this year. Thank you for reminding me.
Okay, thank you for making sure that it gets done, because I've had so many complaints. Okay, thank you.
Hey, Steve, while any of the work is getting done, is there any park access, especially behind Cardoza? I know there's some, I'm going to call them cut-throughs, but they're like those pedestrian cut-throughs off Banyan and things like that, or any access to schools that we might need to promote to, like Burnett or any of the other schools where we're doing the work for getting to school?
We'll definitely phase it as we are covering the entire neighborhood. We'll phase it so that we maintain access and minimize, public impact.
Okay.
So we'll definitely work with, school district to make sure that if we do have in-person schooling, we do accommodate that as well.
And then Rosanna will probably start nodding her head, is if you're going to do some streets around Cardoza, let us know, because that's a huge site for youth sports, but now also vaccines and testing. So if there's any streets that are going to be worked on, we'll just want to let people know that it might take them a little bit longer to get there.
Will do.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is Voltaire Montemer. I'm hoping that someday there will be a bike festival, a bike race, but I don't want the downslope. If possible, only going upslope to the Edlevin or the Sunday Wall, was that? No, going down is dangerous. Yeah, going up only. And it's a bicycle race day or race, bicycle week or a month. Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on that. Thanks for reminding me, Voltaire. So I also serve on the VTA board, and they had, well, they will have, I can't remember. I mentioned it at our last city council meeting. It had a bike to anywhere, bike like a bike-a-thon, but because of COVID, they just said, well, anybody can go anywhere. You know, it's not really a bike-a-thon, but so they called it a bike to anywhere day. And I don't remember what day it was, or maybe it already passed. But I had also mentioned that since we don't have a bicycle commission, I had asked that it be placed somewhere else. But I didn't. And I just learned about this today, that it's part of the PRCR now. So you guys have Historical Society, Parks, and the bike. Wow, this is a commission that's really, really busy. So. And yeah, I didn't realize that the bicycle commission was incorporated into this commission. So that's awesome, actually. But it's a lot of work for you guys, I know. But yeah, I like the idea of a bike-a-thon in the future after COVID. That'd be great.
And Vice Mayor, it's a Bike to Wherever Day. It's on May 21st, so you haven't missed it yet.
Okay, May 21st, everybody. Yeah.
Like anywhere or wherever. Which one?
Yeah.
Wherever. They try to, because we're not doing Bike to Work anymore, or this year anyway, they are doing Bike to Wherever.
Oh, wherever. I thought anywhere. Wherever. I was close.
Maybe Steve, you can, do we have any information we can hand out at our bike repair day? That would be great.
We could link to the Silicon Valley Bike Coalition. They have a website set up for Bike to Wherever. I think they still have Energizer station set up, or with
nice.
freebies. So
Okay.
That information's on their website.
Are there any new bike lanes that you're going to be putting in with some of this street work too with this item?
Not with the TDA, but on the fall of this year, there'll be a project starting Piedmont. That's existing bike lane, but we're adding a buffer bike lane on that segment of Piedmont. And then Landis, as I mentioned, it will be a new bike lane along Landis Avenue. So we are working in cooperation with City of San Jose, since half the street belongs to San Jose and half Milpitas. So we're joining forces to rehab the pavement as well as implementing bike lane along that segment of the roadway.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So Steve, that reminds me, I remember there was somebody was hit maybe 10 years ago, but I've always felt that was a really dangerous crossing right there in Landis and Park Victoria. And I was wondering in the future, maybe we could put on our side, and working with the City of San Jose, put a flashing crossing guard lamp or something. I don't know what they call it, for safety. You know where it's at, right? There's
the intersection of Park Victoria and Landis, or
Park Victoria and Landis, when they cross over to it's really that gas station, Arco gas station, because when people are there, they're turning right, but they don't see that there's someone crossing, and then they wind up striking them. That's a dangerous area. There has been a few accidents, but I think one of them, there was a death that occurred many years ago, I think 10 years ago, I'm not sure. But but you guys keep track of that. I'm sure that
yes, we do.
All that happens.
Okay. Let's see, we've got Ricky and Rondi.
Rondi, go ahead, go first.
Thank you. I have been seeing short delineators, is that correct? The round green and white striped. Are those going to be part of this resurfacing and bike lane and all of that?
The resurfacing project coming up is generally for the pavement section anyway. We are rehabbing new asphalt and then new striping, and then any new signage on the side of the road. Currently, the project does not include what you, I think those are they stick up on the ground, you mentioned?
Yeah, and I was wondering how effective they are because I drive a truck and it's hard to see those they're little. Like I don't know how tall they are, but anyway, I was curious if that was included. So that's fine.
No.
Okay, just curious. Thank you.
My question was about the resurfacing behind Cardoza Park by Burnett. I know you're mainly focusing on the roadways and stuff, but would there be a chance to resurface the pathway from the street right behind the houses, and then there's a little path that goes into the sport complex gateway between the sport fields, so behind the baseball fields, and then out to the street? Because I know that pathway is pretty old. I don't think it's ever been repaved since I've been a kid. Because that's how I got to Burnett.
So it's that the resurfacing project, because of the funding source, it's gas tax is essentially only for use for public roadway.
Okay.
Since that pathway is private property, belong to the city, so we can't really utilize that funding for rehab of that pathway. So we'll definitely take a look at it as part of the park rehab project or maintenance project that our public works can take care of. We'll definitely let them know.
Okay. I was just wondering if that was going to be impacted and anything other than maybe being blocked off because of the street being closed, but okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions on this? I think not. Do we need to make a motion or anything for this one?
No, I think this was just informational, and any questions or comments, and we peppered Steve with quite a few. So thank you, Steve, for coming.
Welcome.
And if you have other questions about it, you can email Steve, and then Ricky, I'll touch base with Public Works on the Faneuil Street.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right,
And
thank you,
then
Steve.
I think our next item is a subcommittee update. Pulling up my thing now. Yeah, park marking program subcommittee update. I do not remember who was on that subcommittee.
I can help you. It was Crystal, Becky, and Joe, and we had a really good meeting at 5:30. A lot of ideas, and I'm gonna ask Joe and Crystal to chime in because it was very interesting. And I think this group, once we come up, the subcommittee of Parks and Rec and Arts Commission, come together and provide you their findings, you're going to be very pleased with it. So Joe and Crystal.
Does Crystal want to talk?
Crystal, you can start, Joe, and we'll chime in.
There were several things that this was our first meeting, and several things we're basically just trying to get oriented and provide our own guidance, if you will, as to how to proceed over the next several meetings. But one of the questions we asked is, well, what's the purpose of the markers? And given that, what kinds of designs might we reconsider? Staff was very useful, and Tegan was very useful in showing us some examples of the way in which you could provide markers and so on. And I actually proposed a few things, but I don't know whether to discuss that. But the key is it's basically a combination of the Art Commission and the PRCRC, and we're kind of looking for a core idea that's at least going to be useful for adding historical and artistic markers in the parks that are named for individuals, which is like 18 parks. So maybe just slightly more than half of the parks in Milpitas. And there was some question about what we would do perhaps in the future for the parks that are named for maybe location reasons, but not after a particular person. So it was our first meeting. It was really formative, and I think we had a few ideas around which to actually think about and maybe refine those ideas or even add new ideas to that. So our next meeting should be particularly interesting. But I thought it was a good first meeting because I went into it not actually knowing what we were going to marking. One of the things that I've been doing in my own research is the way in which the city currently identifies parks. In other words, the standard city sign, for example. And so I didn't know whether we were redesigning those signs and it turns out we're not. We're just talking about putting some additional content in the parks to make them interesting. And the parks that are named for people, the thought there was, it was a comment that I made, is I said that, I've lived in Milpitas for 54 years. I know people in the Historical Society who were born here. So in other words, they're into 70 to 80 years, but I've been here for 54 years and involved really actively in the Historical Society. And one of the things that occurs to me is that quite a few of the 18 parks are named for pioneers, basically people who came to Milpitas in the 1800s. And I posited the notion that for the most part, and not, as being a critical remark, but the idea that people who live in Milpitas today wouldn't know very much about the history of Milpitas 150 years ago. So therefore these parks would be, in some sense, they're named for a person, but they don't know the person. So one of the things that we thought would be a good idea is the signage, the new signage, the markers should certainly have informational content so that people understand why that, who the person was for which that park is named. And one of the things that I think may come out of this is the notion that we'll use art to make the information less dry. And at the same time to also use art as an eye magnet, in other words, to draw people's attention to where the information is. So it's a very preliminary meeting, but I think it was productive for the very first meeting. I was pretty pleased with the outcome.
Great.
My thoughts on the meeting were good. I definitely want to check out the parks that have names and see like potential sites of where we could put the kiosk or item. We'll see.
Yes, and then the next meeting for the subcommittee is scheduled for the 24th. And so they have quite a bit of a homework assigned from Tegan, which is great. But I think, it's going to be a wonderful project once it is completed, because there's a lot of history to be learned.
Okay. All right. Any other subcommittee updates?
Can I ask a question about the market program of it all? Someone might know. I saw something pretty cool a couple of weeks ago when I was at another business that made displays, and they have a new digital board that's all ran by solar that have no sunburn or anything capability. And I got some info on that. I just thought it would be something cool for the Hitsois to then you could update and do a whole bunch of other stuff. Is there someone I can send that to kind of add that and see if it's something worth looking into?
Yeah, you can send it to Rosanna and myself.
Okay, I'll send you guys some info sometime this week soon. But yeah, it's a tool board that would touch screen and able to be outside and powered by a single solar panel. So thought it was cool.
Yeah, that would be an interesting idea. Because when you go to a touch screen and it's electronic, it actually opens it up in terms of what one can do in terms of programming a lot. It's one thing to have a static informational sign, but to have something that is digital and running, I mean, it really does open up some interesting possibilities.
Yeah, when
But
I
at
talk,
this point, we're not sure about budget.
Yeah, but if we have money, then we may have a monument for all those parks for the history.
Yeah, one other thought about digital is, for example, the Alvisa Adobe Park is the only park that I tend to think of as secure or semi-secure. What I mean by that is that it's actually a gated park, and that gate is locked up basically about 12 hours a day. It's basically open during daylight, but access to the park is actually literally closed during the nighttime. And in one sense, that if you had something like an electronic informational board, that would it would be protected in that particular park. That's certainly not the case, generally speaking, in our parks. And I don't know what the possibilities are, or the potentials are for either vandalism or theft. But, you know, I mean, the idea of electronic signage, one of the things that it allows is it allows modifications of content over time that's actually far cheaper than in changing, you know, permanent signage. So it's an interesting idea. We're actually on a very limited, we're on a short fuse in terms of the amount of time that we're actually working on this. It's like at this point, we're at 3 meetings, and we just had the first meeting. So it's, in one sense, there's a limited amount of time that we have to actually think deeply about maybe one approach for signage versus another. But we'll see what we come up with the second meeting. But again, it's an interesting idea, Ricky, because it actually has a lot of potential that permanent signage doesn't allow.
All right, well, send us the information, Ricky. And then Rosanna, are you ready to move on to the next one?
Yes.
Okay.
Can we move up the agenda, please? Okay, so we've got liaison reports. I'm going to show you the bike repair flyer, because I didn't get to show it to you last time.
And while you put that up, Rosanna, I'm going to go over just a couple other city updates while you share your screen. So just a couple things out of Rec and Community Services. So our summer activity guide is being mailed to all resident homes this summer. We thought it'd be a great opportunity to get back into our city households and let everyone know that we're still here, and we have a lot of stuff coming up in summer that is both in person and virtual. So those should be in your mailboxes within the next week, actually. We do have also a second vaccine clinic that we're hosting with the County of Santa Clara. We held one last week on April 28th, and we had 500 doses to give out, and all 500 doses were given away, which we heard from the county staff was the first clinic in over 2 weeks that used all of their doses. So that was exciting. We have another one this Thursday. It's 1 p.m. to 8 p.m. It is a walk-up. Anyone can go. We're doing Pfizer. So 16 and over can participate. There'll also be some Johnson & Johnson limited supply, but if there's a request for Johnson & Johnson, they have that as well. And then also exciting, before we get to the bike repair, which is the most exciting tonight, we are starting back up movies in the park. We can do those. I know, we can socially distance them. And we're completely within the order. We're very excited. It is a reservation system, so you do have to reserve your movie circle with your family, and you can come out, you can pre-purchase some refreshments, sit in your circle, and our first movie will be Memorial Day weekend, and it will be National Treasure. And so you'll see inside the activity guide, the several movies in the park, and then a few pop-up performances in the park too, as well. So we have read and reread those orders over and over and figured out everything that we can possibly offer to people safely. And so I hope you all take a minute to read through the activity guide. So with that, Rosanna, this is our exciting
you.
thing tonight. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Renee. So this was the flyer that went out to a lot of our MAP families and also to the general public. And just to let you know, we did fill up. We have 98 kids coming with their bikes. The group Turning Wheels for Kids are very excited and very glad that they're able to do this for us this time around. And so if you are still interested in volunteering that day, please let me know, and then we will we'll place you where we need you. I don't think they need any mechanics at this time, but with that many people, we certainly will need some guidance in getting the cars in and out of the parking lot. Okay. Safely, that is, safely. We want to make sure. So if we need to get maybe some vest, I'll reach out to Steve Chan. Maybe we can get the colored vest to make sure we're seen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Great.
And
Thank
we've
you.
got-
And then I think we have our council update
Yes.
after. Vice
Yes.
Mayor, did you have anything?
No, I don't have anything at the moment. So thank you to announce.
All right.
Okay, so
Okay, Vicky. Think that's it.
cool. So what do we have any updates, anything that we need to talk about for subcommittee for next meeting?
No, that's it.
I do think we need to look at the subcommittee of the historic parks and the name. I'm forgetting what ones I was on, but I think one of my members of mine have also is no longer with us on meetings. So we might need to look at replacing her.
Okay.
I think there was only two of us, the two of us on one of those.
Okay. The historic list inventory.
That was
Inventory
one.
list?
There were three of us on that one, and then there was one more that me and her were on that I'm totally forgetting the name of it right now.
We'll touch base with you separately offline. And then-
Yes, yes. Then we can Rochambeau, Joe, and Rondi. See who wants to be in there. Sorry. Okay.
And
That's
then,
it. Yep.
and then I know you emailed out the site tour paper for it to all fill out and look at.
Yes, yes.
That's next month's meeting, right?
That is correct. Thank you.
Do you want it to email all those back to you by a certain date so that you can have them ready for the meeting or anything?
Yeah, I think the Thursday before your meeting is
Yes.
best, and that allows us to finish up the packet for everyone and create our presentations.
Okay, so that would be, let me open my calendar. Make sure I have the right date. So
Question?
we are meeting, so it would be the 3rd that you would want them back.
That is
The
correct.
7th is the Monday.
Yes.
So June 3rd, and then your meeting is June 7th.
7th.
Okay, so if everyone could please go view the parks and enjoy them and take some good notes. Is there a recommended time that you would like it to go, or?
A recommended time to go to the park and look at it?
Yeah, because I
Oh,
know one of the questions were how busy, how
Oh,
that, do you want to get a good sampling of times or anything like that?
If you want to get really creative, you could do like a middle of the day, evening and weekends, because you're going to find the different groups of people there each of those times. But you all are volunteering and have a lot going on in your life. So if you had a couple parks, maybe change up the times that you visit each of those individual parks. And then maybe somebody else is going to visit at a different time. So we'll end up getting that collective data.
I know it didn't have much on there what time we went, but do you want that info so we can kind of see?
Sure. Yeah.
So I think that would be a good thing to add to that form, everyone, what time you're going.
That's on the form.
Oh, is it? I didn't see it. I must be
They have-
blind.
Well, I think it's the third at the top. It's the commissioner who's going, and then the name of the park is the second, and the third is the day of the week, the date and time that you're actually visiting the park.
I did not see the time. I saw the date and stuff, but I didn't see the time. So thank you for pointing that out.
That PDF file, the appraisal form, if we want to call it that, is that an interactive PDF, or because otherwise we just have to submit in paper?
It's not right now, but we could probably make it fillable if you give us a couple days. We can send them out.
Well,
as fillable.
I'm happy to provide either way, but actually the way that we can submit it back electronically now, at least I'm perfectly capable of doing this, is that after I fill out the paper form, I can scan it and basically return basically a form that's in PDF format back to you. That's an alternative, but I don't know if probably everybody can do that, but I don't know that.
Well, can everyone read my handwriting?
Yeah. And actually, you're going to have to get kind of creative on the form, because some of them are basically, in effect, you're supposed to circle. In other words, is some aspect of the park, whatever. There are different categories that you're evaluating. We're evaluating them, and some of the suggested responses are great, good, okay, or needs attention. So we'd have to have a way of, if it's an interactive PDF thing, we'd have to have a way of marking that. Whereas in a paper copy, I can just circle the kind of thing. So I'm just curious how you want the feedback. The form gives us an excellent idea about information that you're interested in.
Right. So we can make it fillable, and we can create opportunities for you just to click the box and it checks it or fills it in for you. So we'll have staff work on that, and then we'll send out the fillable, and then you can decide if you want to go the old-fashioned route with pen and paper or do the fillable on a device or something. So,
yeah.
Okay.
Make sure at the bottom that there's a comments box so that we can actually just type in some stuff that.
Yeah, we definitely want that.
Thank you.
Okay.
So through the chair, I'd like to ask Renee a question.
You don't need to ask my permission.
You're the chair. So Renee, remember Larry Leon Park when we used to, way back when I was in the city council, 2012 to 2016, we had a park naming subcommittee. And I recall Marcia Grilly and I were on it, and we did name a park name, that was Bob McGuire Park, and then we also named one Larry Leon Park. So what's the status on that? Whatever happened to that? Can you build?
Yes, yeah, the park is done, and it's over off 450 Montague, so it's one of the newer parks, and it's two park playground areas and passive recreation areas within the development. I can send it to everybody so you can see it. It is a publicly accessible, but it's owned and operated by the HOA that lives there, or that operates there. And so we're working with that management on the sign placement right now, but it is Larry Leon Park, and it's recently been completed. So we're working on signage.
Okay, so it's a HOA owned park. Okay.
But
the reason why,
accessible.
well, I don't know if there was a lot of ballyhoo in San Jose, 'cause they said, oh, they were the first ones to name a park after Larry Leon. But actually we were the first.
Yes, we were. Yep. I was on that subcommittee with you and
Yeah.
Marcia.
Marcia,
So
yeah.
yes.
Okay, yeah, that'd be good to update us on that when that signage is done. I think we want to do a little something. I don't know if that's possible since it's an HOA, but
Well, that's kind of what we're trying to work out with that the ownership. So we'll get it resolved. Yep.
all right. But I do want to say we were the first, just
Yeah.
to make it public.
We're on record. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Any other stuff before we adjourn?
Doesn't look like it. Good night. Good meeting.
Let's
See y'all.
adjourn and everyone have a
Good
good
night. See you
month.
next month.
Good night,
Good night.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Good one.